are you looking to improve your story? Have you always wondered what a Webtoon editor has to say about your project? What advice a Webtoon editor would give? What do Webtoon original editors have to say about projects that they're working on? Well, you have stumbled upon the right place. So we're going to be diving into an article that I found, and it's all about how one Webtoon editor is giving the keys to success in a sense of how to be, make a good story, how to be successful in Webtoons, and we're going to dive into it. Pause the disclaimer if you want to read it. And so with that, we're going to click over from our slideshow and we're going to jump on to a Reddit post. All right, so here's the article. It is linked in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. There's a lot of information to get through on this, and so I'm not going to spend the entire video going over every single point. I might have to break it up into 2 parts. So if there's a part in there that you find later that you think is really beneficial, leave it in the comments below, and I'll pick it up in part 2. So let's look at what the poster had to say. Hi everyone, I worked as an editor at Webtoon for the last 3 years, and you might recognize me from the past Creator Summits, or from the credits of 25 amazing comics, including Red Hood and the Outlaws, and In the Bleak Midwinter. I want to do 2 things this week: answer your questions and make comics and building an audience, and promote my editorial services. If either of these seems interesting to you, then read on. So this editor is making themselves completely available to anyone who wants to reach out to them directly. Likely, I would think that it is a paid service, is what they're referring to. So I don't necessarily know if they're saying that they're doing anything for free, but if they are, hey, that's amazing. I also want to set some very basic rules. I am not discussing any trade secrets or proprietary information. Drat, because that's what we want. I'm kidding. Please no bad mouthing any publishers in the comments. I'd love to get hired full-time again. So true. Like, I feel like this is very much a key factor that people need to remember, that when you badmouth a company, that makes a company not want to work with you. Like, if you badmouth me in any form and then you were like, hey, Apollo, I would love to come on and be interviewed, I'd be like, heck no, you said that I'm delusional. Why would I want you on the stream? Anyway, when it comes to making comics and building an audience, I put a lot of thought and work into these subjects. I've interviewed senior editors, compiled their advice, and turned it into internal training documents at Webtoon. I helped review Canvas series and helped move series from Canvas to originals, and I had a lot of conversations with my peers about making excellent launches. I've done research, crunched numbers, and spent so many hours talking with creators about what they like and what they hope to achieve. Still, making a comic is more magic than science. Completely agree, because there are some things that I feel like a lot of people would be like, this is straight up trash. And then it's amazing. Like, the masses love it. So you never know, to an extent, like how people will feel about a particular topic sometimes. Like, it could go really well, like it could be a Twilight, or it could go the opposite route and it could be like a Mortal Kombat. Anyway, and if you like my advice and if you think an editor could help you level up, you can hire me. Okay, there it is. They said hire. So basically you can hire them to review your series, which I would say, this is likely something that I think creators should do if you feel like you're right at the threshold of being a professional. If you're still in the transitional phases, I don't know if it would be really helpful since I'm not an editor. I feel like there's so many resources now that you can like buy for like $20, like a book or something, read it and learn from it instead of spending $100 or more on an editor. So maybe start small and then keep working your way up. Please note, my pitch coaching is not going to help you connect with an editor at any publisher. That's more the work of an agent, which I am not. But if someone at a publisher has contacted you seeking a pitch, I can help you make it as polished and compelling as possible. That's all. Send me your questions and I'll answer them over the next few days. So this was posted like 4 months ago, but I would still say you can check out this person, T Beckett 4. I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but they linked this here, so I would say click that. Let's just go ahead and click it and see what pulls up. Yep, Tyler Beckett. That's who I thought it was. So I'll link this in the description as well, and then you can read over this and have full access to this person's profile. And if you do decide to go to them and you went to them for my video, let them know. I would love to have them on the stream to talk about being an editor and how to edit a story. Like, we could hear directly from them. Oh, wrong one. Okay, so let's look at this very first comment. What do you think about the current webcomic industry and the future of it? As someone who worked there, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share about the overwhelming amount of isekai / reincarnation comics and their popularity? Oh my good grief, that's a lot. Also, hello, are you? Glad that you could be here. Hello, Black Ink. So glad that you could be here. Hello, Shibby. Okay, so let's see what his response was. Current state. Great, but there's a disconnect between what has been most easily monetizable and what drives passion. I completely agree with this. I feel like there is a big disconnect between the company versus creators a lot of time, and we're seeing, and that's where that sameness comes from, because from the company standpoint, I feel like they see it as something that is easily monetizable. Like, people love this, people are buying into this, people are spending on it, versus creators who are like, why does Webtoons keep producing the same thing? Or why does Tapas keep producing the same thing? It's because that's making them money. Like, this is the one thing that I feel like creators need to understand, is that, like, readers have a specific interest, and a lot of times readers go to something for said interest. Just think about, like, your social media platform, like your timeline. Like, a lot of times if things show up on your timeline that you don't want, you get rid of it. Or let's say you're following a certain creator who's like into fashion, you're getting outfits of the day, and then they decide to not post stuff like that anymore. They start posting about food or something you're not interested in, you're gonna leave. So Webtoons is like, oh, people love these reincarnated villainous type stories, we're gonna keep producing those, and people keep eating them up. The genres you're referencing, which I call the wish fulfillment stories, generally arrive in large quantities because they succeeded elsewhere, had big production budgets, and because translation is cheap. That is very true. I feel like it's probably 10 times cheaper to just buy an already established series, pay someone to translate it, and then slap it on Webtoons, and they make so much profit off of that. The stories flourishing on Canvas and similar UGC platforms tend to be pretty different and varied. There are a ton of small differences between these two groups that are probably not essential to the groups. And the categories aren't the cleanest, but I found the grouping useful when thinking about what's available as a whole. Over time, I think several things will happen with the two cohorts. Some of the wish fulfillment stories will start to resemble the passion projects. Some of the passion projects will reflect the wish fulfillment stories. Some will figure out how to monetize the passion projects more easily. Someone will create a sustainable ecosystem that allows all these stories to flourish. The demand for wish fulfillment will change in a way that fundamentally changes the market, and or new players cause a paradigm shift. So with all of that said, I think this is very true. Like, people, as time evolves, people's tastes change. Like, we think about currently, like with Marvel and whatnot, like so many people were into Marvel, and then Endgame happened, and it's kind of like everything that happened after Endgame was kind of meh. And so you're seeing a lot of superhero fatigue from the major markets. So it'll be really interesting to see what's the next big thing. Like, we saw, like, for a while it was YA, then it was superhero. Now what's going to be the next big thing? Is it going to be, mystery crime thrillers? Is it going to be webtoons? Like, what is the big thing going to be? And I think what's interesting about this is studios are in a position where they're able to make these stories that are very much insert character, like clone stamp stories. And eventually the people who are making those stories will shift, because people who generate stories like that probably are just getting paid to write something, pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand. And so they might start to veer towards writing things that are more interesting to them, which makes the current market change from it just being like reincarnated as a villainess with 5 husbands to, something very deep, very meaningful, very, thematic in its themes. So, and I think with the Canvas side of things, we're going to see a lot of people pushing towards the manhwa style, where they're, becoming what they hate in a sense. And even if they're not becoming what they hate, I think there's a lot of people on the platform that really enjoy the manhwa, like True Beauty or Remarried Empress, and they want to create similar stories. You see the same sort of thing with like the Shonen Jump sort of stories, like people who are really into that. The stories that they make reflect Shonen Jump stories. So I feel like a lot of people who are really into the manhwa type of stories, we're going to start to see that more reflected in Canvas, and then originals will switch over to being more passion driven. We'll see. You know, it's all kind of one of those things where take it with a grain of salt. The order of when we see these things happen and who causes them to happen is probably the thing I expect to be the most impactful to the next 10 years of webcomics. 10 years, that's a long time. A lot of that is out of anyone's hands, but the best equilibrium we can hope for, in my opinion, is one where readers freely circulate between a wide range of titles. That would mean a lot of people should be reading on multiple platforms, and readers should be picking up titles from a wide range of sources. So completely agree with that. I feel like the more webtoons like gets into the market, and we've talked about it before, like Apple has its own future webtoon platform coming, like other companies like that really get into the market, we're going to see a big shift in that people are not just all on one app or one platform. They're going to be people that have multiple apps downloaded. Definitely could see that happening. That might happen if creators regularly take a super important step. We all need to build community and support one another. Cross-promote comics, do collabs, hype up what you love, and read widely. That alone could change the comics world. I do agree with this. I think that there's a lot of instances where the creator side of things is being underused, because if there was like a chain, a group where creators were like actively supporting each other, but I often see people being like, I just don't have time to read anyone else's story and support them. Totally get it, completely understand. Like, you're doing this likely for free or as a hobby. And so, you know, you probably work full time or you're in school full time or something like that. And so your time is limited. But I really think that the more that creators get involved in the community and get involved in doing, you know, projects actively with each other, it will help to cross promote things a lot. So let's look at our next question. What do you think is the best way for newer webtoons to market their work? What are common tactics of the successful writers you've worked with? Thank you for your time. Let's see what his answer was. There is social media, of course, and some creators have definitely made that work for them. Personally, I think the best advertising is in the places you know webcomic readers congregate on the webcomic apps. Whether that's Webtoon, Tapiz, Lizhin, VoiceMe, Global Comics, whomever, each is going to have an audience that has already cleared the hurdle of reading comics online, and practically 100% of those readers are open to reading more comics this way. So look into collabs with other creators, draw fan art for each other, hype each other up in private and in public. If you find a good comic that has a lot in common with your comic, you can set up a mutually beneficial pipeline that helps readers find their next favorite series. Okay, this is something that I feel like creators are really weird about, and I just want to take a moment to sit here with you guys and explain this. If someone has a series that is similar to yours, it does not matter. So many people are looking for the same story to read again, just a little different, that you're talking about something that is an issue with creators as if it's an issue, like you're talking about an issue as if it's an issue for readers, but really it's a creator issue. Readers don't care. Like, unless you're like plagiarizing, I feel like that's the only way people will really like riot about it. So I would just say, like, really understand that knowing people who are telling similar stories or in the same genre as you is really important and can really help to hype up the story. There's been a number of times where I've seen those webtoon collabs at the end of an episode where someone's like, this story is a romance collab or whatever, and here's some other like romance stories that are interesting. And I've clicked on stories because I saw it in the story that I was reading. So never underestimate the power of a collab. And I would say also, if you genuinely like somebody, you don't need someone to tell you to promote them. You can promote them yourself. Yep. Oh, and fan art. Fan art is the way to like any creator's heart. Like if anyone draws fan art of something of yours, it's so precious to you. Like any fan art that I get of any characters that I make, I'm always like, oh my God, I love this. So every creator is super flattered by that. So you can never go wrong with that. Okay. Okay, let's just read this comment here. This person said, a lot of the bigger studios base their webtoons off of Korean web novels. Do you think we'll start seeing that trend in the Western webtoons as well? He said, yep, and we'll see a lot of them based on Western web novels. See, Tap is recent ramping up on web novels. I've edited a couple, and various comic companies acquiring web novel platforms. So let me just say this, that we talked about this not too long ago in a previous stream where I forget what the name of the company was, but it was like a novel company, and they're adapting series that they've bought. And one of the series I've read, and it's like my favorite series ever. If Webtoon does it right, it will be amazing. It will be like a 10 out of 10. It will go leaps and bounds beyond like anything on the platform currently. I love that story so much, and I cannot believe that they got it, to be honest. But we're going to see a lot of that going forward. Hello, Adagong. Yeah, collabs are awesome. I would totally agree with you. And hello, Emmy. Thank you for jumping on. Okay. Okay, here we go. Next question. How did you start out in the business? What kind of background does one need? What is your favorite aspect of the industry? Least enjoyable aspect? Also, how successful are webtoon writers who don't illustrate their comics? I see many Canvas webtoons that are both written and illustrated by the same person. I love to write, but I'm not an artist at all. I'd love to work on a webtoon or other comics. Whew, this is a long answer. There's no single way in. New publishers like Webtoon and Tapas are more open, in my opinion, to different professional backgrounds. I know comic pros who came from TV, journalism, education, etc., and I was working at an academic publisher when I got hired. As far as getting hired, my strengths were probably that I have a MFA in writing fiction, had a decent portfolio of publishing writing, and that I had good writing samples that I spent most of 2020 working on. Okay, so we see that he has like an extensive writing background. Oh, hello, Taylor. Taylor said, also knowing people who create in the same genre as you can help you grow a lot. They understand on a technical level what you're trying to do and vice versa, and you can help each other. Yes. I completely agree with that. Like, you can learn so much from another person just in their perspective and in the perspective they can give you on your own series. So always keep that in mind. Traditional publishers seem to expect comic experience and, if possible, print publishing experience. The last part might maintain some disconnect between the webcomic and print comic side of the market, and I wish that was more easily transversed. So, a candidate who has done both is especially valuable. I very much admire the work Cassandra Jones did on Let Her Be Evil and just got a great job at IDW. So that's definitely someone to look up. I have no clue who that is. So if anybody knows who that is, let me know. Webcomic writers, like all comic creators, need to know what their version of success is. I preach this all the time. Everyone's version of success is going to vary from person to person, and what you want to do with your career is going to be completely different from someone else's. Everything is going to be pretty nuanced, even if you have a generalized idea of what you want. If their goal is simply make lots of money, I'm sorry to say that I haven't cracked that puzzle yet. Yeah, I don't know if, like, I feel like being rich off of comics is very rare. Just putting that out there, like 100% transparent. But to achieve most other goals like building a community, telling great stories, improving your craft, etc., there's nothing like doing the work. Read and create are the first steps. I'll make a suggestion for improving your craft. And this suggestion is especially for comics with narratives, and that is to vary how you train. You're naturally going to grow and develop your skills as you create more, but doing the same thing over and over may mean you underdevelop a few specific skills. Okay, let's pause right there. Let me just say this. Okay, it's a really interesting idea here, and I kind of get what they're saying because I feel like working on different projects allows you to like stretch different muscles sometimes, because like a certain way of storytelling for, like, let's say a shonen jump or like a action focused story is going to be different from how you tell a shoujo or a romance story. And the thing of that though is both story types, both genres can cross over, and they can both take elements from the other one to build on, really fleshing out or really improving the storytelling of that story. So what I'm trying to say is it's really important to expound upon your writing skills, and that gives you more perspective on how to write things more clearly, because like with action they're like very focused on movement, but with shoujo or romance they're very focused on the emotions. And so telling a story in both concepts or both genres can really help you to conceptualize your story better. So I feel like I agree with this. I'm not 100%. Like let's keep reading. If it's like training for a race, then long multi-mile runs will help you improve a lot, but you'll have a slower start than someone who integrated sprints into their training. In the same way, if you're only working on a single long comic, you will have less practice with how to start well. Okay, I completely agree with that. If you're spending a lot of time on the same story, or you're working, like if you've only worked on one story and it's been like 5 years, then probably your storytelling for how to start a story may not be as good. I do think you learn a lot on the job though, and so you probably would have ideas on how you would want to retell the story if you made one from the beginning. And I think that's probably also very valuable. So I feel like it could go either way. But I do kind of get what he's saying in the fact that the more stories that you start, the better you'll have an idea of how to hook readers from that initial starting point. Adagon, how much is a lot of money anyway? I would say it would be double the average income for wherever you live. I would say that's a lot of money because that's essentially 2 salaries. Maybe triple if we're talking like a lot. So like if you make $1,000 a month, then 3,000 to 4,000. That would be a lot. So if you're a writer looking to get started, or anyone who wants to quickly level up their skills, I suggest short stories. Now, I do suggest this. I say that all the time. See, if you can make a compelling comic that lasts for a relatively short period of time, example, 10 episodes, these can be really focused, cool ways to tell story. It forces you to pick all the details really carefully, and you get to move on to something new before long. So let's pause right there. I feel like this is really, really important for people who are going to be entering the contest. The part where he says, they can be really focused ways to tell a story, and it forces you to pick details carefully. So it's so important in those 3 episodes for anybody who's entering the contest to make sure that the dialogue is impactful, the scenes are impactful, the looks are impactful, everything needs to be impactful. You don't need any fan service, in my opinion, maybe if you're doing the comedy section. But if you're doing any of the other 3, like, go over, like, you can be refining it right now, figuring out like, can this dialogue be cut, can this scene be cut, like, can I make this story flow better, does the conversation work, do the panels work? Like, there's a lot that is involved in really picking out the details and really understanding like how to focus the story so it can have the most impact. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about the comic contest for now. Maybe we'll talk about it in the Q&A section. And it can help you find your audience. Several popular original creators won Webtoon short story contests in the past years. You could test out your different ideas, confirm what your priorities and strengths are in storytelling, and then launch into a big project. Remember, even in the best case scenario where your comic meets every single goal you ever had, you will eventually, hopefully, move on to another comic. Try to take the long view and remember that a published imperfect comic is always better than the perfect comic that only exists in your head. So this is something that I really struggle with. I am a perfectionist no matter how hard I try. Like, things just bother me over and over again, in the sense that I just want things to be perfect. I have a vision for it and I want it to be that way, and when it can't be that way, I discourage myself. So I really take that to heart, that it does mean a lot to put something out into the world, even if it's not perfect. So putting something out is better than having nothing out. So take that to heart. And I say that to anybody who's entering the contest too. Like, at the end of the day, work on it as much as you can. If you're a perfectionist, maybe you want to work on it till the very last day so that you can say, like, I tried my absolute best. But all in all, I will say that I completely agree with the idea that, it really takes practice to understand how to tell stories. And he even mentions that short story contests in the past years have launched original creators' careers. So it's really important, and it really shows, like, your skill as a storyteller to be able to tell something coherently in a short amount of episodes. But like I mentioned in my post, take my advice as just advice. If you want a counterexample to what I said above, you could pick Osara, which I was very excited about bringing from Canvas to Originals. The creator has been working on the story in some form or other for 10 years, and during that time, they restarted their comic 7 times. Oh my good grief, that's a long time. Tony has posted about this on their socials, and they're a great follow. So in some ways they did not follow my advice above, but in some ways they did. They poured their effort into one project, but their rounds of repetition and reevaluation helped them to refine the story. Oh, yes. I completely agree. 100%. Also, good morning. This makes so much sense to me. Like, I feel like if you are working and you're revamping something, it's so much more important than just revamping art. Like, the story is part of the impact to the people who are involved in your story as well. Like, it's more than just, I need to make the art pretty. Like, people might come for the art, but they stay for the story. And being really, really introspective and understanding, like, how to change or clip or fix anything that you're working on is really important for any creator. So I think we'll stop there. Like, this is where we're going to end part 1 of this. There's a few more comments. Like, see, the thing of it is, he's kind of long-winded like me, it looks like, and I get it. He's trying to be really thorough in his answers, but we've got like a few more questions that we can cover. So we'll pick up on this Reddit article. We'll do a part 2. Maybe it'll be Sunday, maybe it'll be Monday, I don't know when, but I just wanted to pop on and share this with you guys. And if you're interested, definitely check out the full article. You can read it for yourself, but definitely you can come back by and hang out with me as we discuss it and we talk about, those insights from a creator. I kind of like getting a little bit of validation from it, because I feel like my mindset is kind of in the same sphere as this editor. Like, a lot of things that I advise you guys on is research that I've done, or things that I've looked up, or things that people have told me. And so I try to come as informed as possible whenever I'm talking about a subject. So it's just nice to hear that someone who's worked in the business has like a lot of similar ideas to me. So with that, we're in our question and comment section. So if you have any questions you would like to ask me, go ahead. Also, the question to the community this week, so please leave the comments down below. What tips should creators consider when editing their story? I'd love to hear from you. All right, so King, hello. How do you guys feel about selling comics on Shopify? Like, e-commerce route as an independent publisher, marketing online and making your own shop? Do comic makers and mangaka do this to start? Okay, so I'm not selling anything, like any sort of physical merch, which I'm assuming that's what you would use Shopify for. I would have to do research to answer that, so I'm sorry I can't give you a better answer other than see if anybody else is selling comics on there and then look at the reviews and look at the number of sales if that's available. And what was your second question? Do comic makers and mangaka do this? I don't see why they wouldn't use a Shopify or something similar to that. So, sure, why not? I do think, like, I wonder, because I guess that falls into like the Etsy route. I know creators have some of those, but it's more so for like charms, like convention merch. I don't know if I've ever known anybody to sell merch on Shopify. We'll have to come back to it. So I will say that while you guys are typing your questions, let's look really quickly at his website. So just to pull it up, so could your comic use an editor? And he's got his expertise. He's got testimonials. That's a random ad. We'll ignore that. Oh man, there's a lot of testimonials. Here's his hiring here. Okay, so here's his prices, which would be really useful to anybody. So there's a short term package. So it says comic issue, $100, comprehensive story and art feedback, 60 panels maximum. Okay. Portfolio review, high level art, story, and strategy feedback, great for new creators. A pitch coach, transform your comic idea into the pitch that publishers long to see. So I feel like these prices are pretty reasonable. To be honest, I feel like they're kind of cheap. I mean, he does say it's only 60 panels, so I guess you could take that with a grain of salt, but I do kind of feel like that's really reasonable and that's definitely well worth the investment. Would you guys want me to do a giveaway for this in the future? Would you guys want me to like pay for someone to get their comic reviewed? Obviously I would want like details on it so that I can make a video about it, but I definitely think that this is something that could be really useful to a creator, especially someone who's trying to leap from an indie creator, or I don't want to say indie, I don't know what to call it, maybe from a hobbyist to a professional, and see if they're on the right track. Okay, so we've got long-term packages. So this is pretty interesting, and I wonder what the difference is. Long-term, short-term. Okay, it says a lot of comic projects last a lot longer than one issue, and you have to price these carefully. I offer reduced rates for long-term packages, and I would love to join your team of creators in making a fantastic comic series. Okay. I wonder if per issue, okay, it says 60 panels maximum, so I wonder if that's for one episode. I'm very curious. Okay, and it's the same. Okay, 10 comic issue package, $90. So it's $90 per issue. So it's $900. I don't know what this is. 30 plus comic issue package, $65 per issue. Okay, so there's a discount. So he's got like some decent pricing on here. Like if you really want like a big review, like it's gonna be about $1,000 for 10 episodes, it looks like. Let's see. Taylor. Shopify is super popular with indie novelists right now for things like signed copies, which usually come with bookmarks and stickers and stuff. So I don't see why this wouldn't be good for printed comics. Yeah, like I don't know. I haven't heard anybody using Shopify, but I really don't see why you can sell on there. The only issue I could see is that there aren't any readers there to buy, but I feel like if novelists are there, like that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. So maybe. Taylor said, but with Shopify, you have to take the risk of buying physical stock. I think the people who I know who use it do. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so just, count your costs and try and figure that out. Saj King, hello. I heard about you saying you want to hire an artist to help you draw your webtoon. How much is the pay? You can DM me for details. It really just depends. Like, from what I've researched, I think there's like a per panel charge. So I'm kind of flexible. The more research I've done on it, the more I'm like, it might be more cost effective for me to draw the panels and then hire maybe a colorist. I don't know. I've seen anywhere from like the cheapest that I know of is $7 per panel all the way up to $25. So I'm just like, that's a lot. Like, that's like at the lowest, maybe $1,000 to $1,200 for someone to draw all of it, and that's just drawing, not coloring. So, also, I'd have to see the portfolio to see if it would match the style of my characters in the way that I draw them. So that's always the rough thing about being an artist. Finding someone who can draw in the style that you want because you're trying to draw because you want it drawn in your style. So just hit me up on Instagram. Send me a little DM. All right, guys. So with that being said, I will say if there are no more questions, I'm going to hop off. I really enjoyed getting a chance to hang out with you and covering this topic really briefly. So if you have any ideas for future videos, please leave a comment down below. Also, I would love to know, are you working with an editor? Are you, do you have an editor? Like, what is your thoughts on getting an editor? Or do you just get your friends to help you out? Like, comment down below. I want to know. Also, this week's creator shout out is is Anzi Art. You can pause it. I have all of their information here up on the screen. Their series is Black Sonata, and you can read that on Webtoons. I have a link down in the description. Big thank you to all of our patrons. I really appreciate you guys. We've got a Patreon exclusive video. It's going to be going up on Monday. So if you want to come and hang out for that, I'm going to be talking about my experience with Wicked and how much I really loved it. I cried. All right. Have a good one.